Morning, welcome to ECA Event Condition Action, a new rules engine for Drupal 9 and beyond. My name is Richard Papp. I'm a full stack developer. I'm a freelancer, working alone on projects and also with my two colleagues Jürgen Haas and Daniel Speicher from LakeDrops. That's actually with Jürgen that I created this module. After releasing the first alpha version, Max Haupt from Open Campus joined the team, who did a lot of improvements on the code. And also Ralph Koller, who helps us to improve usability of the module. I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of the module, how it works. Afterwards, I explain how we came up with the idea of that module and why we created it. Later, I show you the architecture behind it, explain what modelers are, and the objectives of the module. And we finish with a short look at the roadmap. So I have prepared a Drupal installation with the GenAdmin theme and ECA enabled. If you go to Configuration Workflow ECA Overview, you come to this list of ECA models that maybe exist or is empty. And here you can add a new so-called Bpmn model. Bpmn stands for Business Process Model and Notation. It's a graphical representation of business processes. It has different elements like start events, gateways, and tasks. Now here you have a context menu. You can put a label on your model, say example. You can tag it, give it a version, and say if it's enabled or disabled. I saved that, and now you can create your models, your rules, in fact. Here we start with the start event. You get, again, a context menu. Let's say we want to act on updating an entity. And then you have to choose what event you want to trigger, have triggered your actions. Here you have a search, and you can take the update entity event, and then you can also say, let's say you want to act on when it's an article. So I'm going to save this again, and now you can add an action. When you click on the event, you have here the elements that appear, and you can add an action. Again, just put the label on it, display message. And again, I go to template and select the action that I want to trigger. Display a message to the user. And here I can insert the message. Again, I save the model, and I go back to an article that I have created. I update this article with some text. I save it, and now hopefully this message will appear. This is one simple example. Now I can, in the same model, I can add more events or create a new model as you wish. Let's say we want to act on pre-save an entity. So you see, you can already use the module also for replacing hooks that you may write in your custom module. Again, I look for the entity. I want the model to be triggered, and now I could add here the type or the bundle of the entity to act on, but let's not do that for this demonstration. I save it, and now we add a gateway, a so-called gateway. You will just see in a second what this is. We add another action. Again, display a message. Or no, this time we set we set the title, like an auto-entity label module. Set label. And this one is, you have to go for entity, set field value, and then you can here insert the field name, title, and what value to set. Let's see, auto title by ECA. Save it again. And now I add a second one because I want, as it is a gateway, I want to differentiate if it's a page or an article, or not a page, let's say. Again, I set the label, set the field value, title, and this one is a non-page title. I save it again, and now I have still to define the condition the gateway should check for. So I go here, for example, I don't want it to act on page bundles, so I say don't act on basic page, and I negate it. And on the other one, I do the same, but I don't negate it. So just check that it's a base bundle. Okay, then if we create a new basic page, let's say page 1. Now it hopefully acts on that page and change the other title. So just two simple examples on what you can do. You could go further. You could here also let this event trigger the display of the other message. You could add here again other functionalities. You have a lot of actions, and the arrows are the representation of the conditions that you had in rules. So you see, you're quite fast, and you can get what rules did before. So this was a quick demo. Now let's talk about how we came up with that module. The problem was we had to migrate Drupal 7 applications for a client to Drupal 8 last year, and the rules module was still in alpha stage, and it didn't work as we expected it to work. There was also a business rules module that did similar things, but it didn't work either for us. And there was also a third module, TR rules, that was created actually to fill the gaps in the rules module. I think it's written by the current maintainer of the rules module. So the situation was not satisfying for us. We had to decide if we try to go with the rules module and provide patches, but we didn't know what was the cost, the cost that the rules module was not ready yet, because they have been developing it for 3 years and it didn't work. So, and we didn't know how responsive the maintainers were. And in fact, in 2016, my colleague Jürgen Haas already had the idea to combine the rules module with Bpmn. And so we got back to that idea last year, and Jürgen made a small prototype, and it worked, and our client was thrilled because it gave him the possibility for his specialty departments, for people who don't have a special technical knowledge to define business processes in Drupal. So they said go for it, and we did. After releasing the first alpha version, we really got positive feedback, and the most interesting thing for me was that a lot of people told us that they were hesitating to migrate their Drupal 7 applications because of the lack of rules. So okay, what is ECA in fact? ECA is just a processor. An event subscriber listens to all Drupal events and triggers the process that you defined before. This process takes all available and enabled models and checks what models are available for the current event and triggers them. The ECA models that we created before are stored as config entities, so you can export them and put it in your control version system. Where does the config come from? So ECA doesn't care. Bear with me, within a few minutes I'll explain what that means exactly. What components does the processor support? We support all Drupal events, and you can of course add your own events. For the conditions, we had to provide a custom plugin manager, because although Drupal has a condition plugin API, it didn't work because it interfered with the blocks in Drupal that also use that API. So we created an own one. But of course, as it's plugin manager, you can add your own conditions and the actions, all Drupal actions. And you can, of course, also add your custom actions. That was one of our philosophy when we made up the concept that we wanted to reuse everything that's already there in Drupal and make it as flexible as we can. So what's already included in ECA currently, what you get, it's the processor. You have plugin managers for events and conditions and for modelers. You have the interfaces and abstract base classes that you need if you want to extend it. Integration of all actions from Drupal core. Then we have a context stack module that was written by Max Haupt. What it does, in fact, when you go through the process of your all the actions and conditions, you may need variables through the whole process, and this what the context stack module does. It stores these variables and make them available in other steps in your process. We have a lot of tests. It's already about 70% of test coverage, and we're adding more for the first stable release. You have 11 sub-modules. Make sure if you don't find an event, a condition, or an action that you expect to be there, make sure that you check if you have the corresponding module enabled, because they all have their own events, conditions, and actions. There are already some contrib modules who provide support for ECA. The ECA tamper is a special one, as we reuse the tamper plugins to provide some of the actions, like for example strip HTML from the title. We didn't reinvent the wheel, but we integrated the feeds module, so the tamper feeds module, to use the plugins from tamper. There are several more modules that we try to get support for ECA. So the modeler, what is the modeler that you just saw? A modeler is the user interface for ECA config entities. What ECA base provides is the list of the models. You'll see why afterwards. But when you want to edit a model, you have to have a modeler. What is integrated one is the Bpmn Modeler. And of course, as there is a plugin manager, you can add your own modeler. We were already thinking of adding more modelers, as we're not everybody is happy with the one that is there, and maybe we'll come up with another one also. It doesn't have to be Bpmn, of course. It can be anything. Only a structure, event, condition, action matters. And as I said, 2 modelers are already integrated. One is the Camunda desktop client. It's a desktop application, and the integration is only in fact that you can export the events, conditions, and actions from Drupal, import them into Camunda to have it available. You create then your models in Camunda and export the definition of your models back to Drupal. And then you have it in the list of models. It gets processed. You just can't edit it within Drupal. And the other one was the modeler that you just saw, the Bpmn, provided also by Camunda. Here you have an overview of the classes that we have, of the interfaces. So if you want to implement a Bpm modeler, you just extend the modeler Bpmn base class, and if you want to implement another modeler, you just go with the modeler base class. Possible modelers, as you've seen, it's a plugin manager. There's also Node-RED that we looked at, plant UML, mind maps, plain text, JSON, YAML, whatever you come up with. The most important thing afterwards is that you store it as a Drupal config entity. The Bpmn modeler actually stores it in two formats, as config entities and as Bpmn. So we have the original Bpm XML structure also. Objectives. When we started, we just wanted to have a substitute for the rules module, but it turned out, as you have seen, we can also replace the auto entity label module. We can replace hooks that you have to write in your custom modules. So it went much beyond what we thought in first place. Most of the hooks, the form altering, validation, and submit handlers, there's an ECA form module. We're currently refactoring it because it doesn't work 100%. Anything you would have to do on cron or queue tasks. Sorry. And also, as I already mentioned, you can reduce the number of modules you have to install. The redirect 403, redirect after login, logout, redirect per, max length, field validation, all this functionality you can implement with ECA. We're also trying to, in the documentation, we're also trying to give you already the XML structure, for example, for a lot of more complex processes, to give you an idea what is possible and how to implement things. Bpmn itself, we liked it because it's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit like Bhat. It gives the possibility to people without specific technical knowledge to build, maintain, and also document the business processes, because you just can print out the model, the Bpm model, and you have a documentation of what's going on. And of course, as I said, everything is in config, so you have a nice workflow for your development. We released on the 17th May of 2022, we released the beta 12 version, and we hope to be able to release the version, a stable version 1, by the end of July, I would say. There are a few issues. You can have a look at the issue queue that are showstoppers at the moment, but we're working on it and hopefully be able to release it in July, end of July. Here again, you see the ECA consists of three main modules: the ECA, Camunda, and Bpmn. In fact, from the models, you just need one. And there's also documentation that we're working on and hopefully be available also with the version, stable version 1. So, if you want to help, or you need help to add support on your own modules, just reach out to us. We have a Drupal Slack channel, ECA, or get in touch with us in the issue queues. We're glad to help, or if you want to help, any help is appreciated. Thanks for listening. Are there any questions?
Hi there. Thank you for the talk. You mentioned 11 submodules. Are they included within the main module? First
Yes.
question.
Yes.
And follow up. Why are they separated into submodules that need to be enabled separately? Why don't you just enable them by default? Can you explain a little bit about that decision?
Because everybody needs has different requirements, so we just thought it's better maintainable, and you don't have if you just want to, for example, form validation, you just need the ECA form. So it's more like that. Of course, there may be modules that depend on each other, so.
Hey, thanks for presentation. Super small question. So I just want to clarify. So Bpmn.io, this is a modeler which allows you to draw the things in the front end.
Exactly.
And you can also draw the things, you said, like with the desktop client?
Yes, with Camunda.
And it will be mapped into Drupal and synchronized with entities and stuff like this?
Exactly. Camunda is, in fact, the organization or company behind the both. So we started with Camunda, as we didn't know the other one. And when we saw that we can integrate that JavaScript library, of course, into Drupal, we went with Bpmn. So in fact, we did not develop much lately for the Camunda desktop, but yeah, it's the same user interface. In fact, it's just one is the desktop client, and the problem there is, for example, I think we don't have token support there. So in the Bpmn interface in Drupal, we have token support. We have this window dialog that opens, and you can choose the token. We don't have that in Camunda, for example, yes.
But let me understand. If I write a custom action or a custom condition, like with your plugin manager, it will somehow be synced to the desktop?
You export the definitions, the available actions, events, conditions, just the definition, the names, let's say, and you import it in Camunda. Okay. You create your models there, and you export the Bpmn structure.
I got it.
And import it. Actually, you see the import button here on the right.
All right, so awesome.
It's a little bit cumbersome, but it's another possibility. But in fact, we were already thinking about what you have. As you have seen, we have context menus for every action condition. I was already thinking about just provide these context menus without the graphical representation, because it doesn't have to be graphical. It was just the idea as our client. There are non-technical users that do a lot of, already in Drupal 7, but they created a lot of rules, but they came to a point where they did not understand how to implement some things. And when we showed that idea to the client, it was really thrilled. So that was also a reason that we went for it.
So there is a potential, I'm just asking, for somebody to create a simple non-library Drupal-like form, which will allow you to save models. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you very much. Looks really great. My first question was, you did this interface, implemented this JavaScript interface, but it turned out you're just using...
No, we just took the JavaScript library.
Cool.
The good thing is really we had to some requirements that had to be added to that library, and the people at Camunda were very responsive. So it's really they're really open to changes, to improvements. And when we started these context menus, where the font was not, the contrast of the font was not good, so they improved all these also the last year, and really it's getting better and better every time. We have some limitations. For example, you only have let me go back to it. So you only have in the context menus, you only have you don't have a select list, radio buttons or checkbox list, for example. That's not implemented yet. So for example, if you want to check for roles of a user, you have to insert it comma separated at the moment. It would be much more nice to have checkbox, but these are a few limitations. But I think in the future that could change also.
Cool. My other question, is there some migration path from Drupal 7 rules to Drupal 9?
There is an issue, but me personally, I don't see it, but maybe somebody comes up with a solution.
Okay, so basically the person should just recreate everything in ECA from scratch. That's fine.
It's not our priority at the moment, let's say. I'm not sure if it's possible at all, because I think that what thrilled me is I'm very fast to create models here. I'm much faster than in rules. No offense to rules, I really like that. And in fact, you can also here, you can what you had in rules with the what was it? You could create the rule in itself, and then you could create components. So you can do the same thing here. You create two models and reuse one model in the other one, triggering the event that's defined in the other model. So this is a little bit similar to the rules module with components. So
cool. Thank you.
And maybe just one point more. If let's say we have an example that you have to validate several forms, but the same field, you can do it here within the same model. We just did it for the client, and it's really fast. And in rules, I think you would have to maybe or use components, different components, or make different rules. And here you just have to change the check for what field you want to validate for, really. So.
Hey, thank you. My question was related to can we think about like this diagram as something that that you have an input, and there should be like a transformation process where you can send the output to the next box, let's say. Can we think about that, or because I didn't see in any case like if there is any way to connect the output of something into the next box? Or
here, when you create a rule, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, you have different actions. You can load entities and pass them to the next action and everything like that. You just have to go for all the actions and conditions that there are. You can also define add. Normally, as you see here, you have an entity field. You can add entities that you need that are not provided automatically to the action. If you define an action, it's used to act on one entity, so that's provided normally. But if you need any other entity, you can define it here. We write that up all in the documentation, because I see it's quite complicated when you use it for the first time. It's maybe easy to create that part here, but afterwards to know everything. And let's say also for strip tags, you have to maybe get the right event, because you can't always strip tags in every event. We were thinking about some dependency management to be able to define what action can act on what event, but that's still in work in progress.
Yeah, that's good, thanks.
More questions?
Okay, thank you very much.